So I was like, yeah, hi. Hello, Phil. How are you?
Not too bad, Julian. How are you doing?
Yeah, very good. I'm assuming you've been busy with Beautiful Wounds coming out or the album forthcoming. And I know you've just released The Dance, haven't you, in the last, well, I think it was last Friday.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and just trying to build up a head of steam for the release of the album. And we just signed off the artwork for the album, the vinyl, and also for the CD. It's been took a while. We had a few little issues. Unfortunately, with the pandemic world, getting vinyl cut is a huge backlog. I think Optimal, the company, are booked up until March next year. So there's a lot of
Okay.
people putting work out, which is a positive thing. But actually getting in there was quite tricky. So we had one or two things quality wise on the cut, not nothing to do with the pressing, but um, so we had to go and recut it. So the last thing I would want to see happen is like people paying 20 quid for something that's supposed to be like the top of the range product, and the artwork is looking stunning. I'm so pleased. I'm so proud of it. The music really, I didn't want it to go out in any way, shape, or form subpar. So might be a slight delay on the vinyl, but we'll have to wait to hear from Optimal what they
Okay. And
say.
I understand there will be a CD version as well coming in the future.
Yeah, there'll be two things actually. But the vinyl, the CD version, but also we're doing a very limited edition CD book, which is going to have like a story of the album and then explanation of the lyrics and stuff like that. Like it's quite an interesting story, the journey the album took, and obviously a lot of the things that happened along the way. Some very some quite tragic things as well. So it's
Yes.
kind of it is an interesting story, the kind of situations I found myself in along the way, and it would be nice to do. So I think we're going to do a limited run of that, about 100 CDs, and then
Ah,
but I'm writing that story now. I have to have it ready by Sunday actually.
what you've
So
sold one? You've sold one already.
okay, cool. But it's actually I actually work like I like writing, and I haven't really done a lot of that kind of prose writing. I always write prose to write lyrics, but I just started writing, and then it all sort of flowing out, and there's like I mean, some of these ideas on the album. There's one idea goes back in the day. It goes back to the '90s. So it was just, and I said, well, I really like that. I'm going to use it now. And not like it's kind of like I love that thing about music. Like it's being a musical ecologist where you never waste anything.
Mm. When you
But
actually
yeah,
start to put a song together, do you literally write all of the music for the drummer, the guitarist, and everything for the one song each?
yeah, it doesn't. It kind of comes together more like say if you're making a collage. You have like a piece here, and then you fit another piece to it. It's more like that rather than me sitting down and saying because I mean uh, I don't know. There's a track. Well, the track "Beautiful Wounds," essentially was this idea I'd had. Then we were just jamming with this live improv band, and we just came up with a sequence out of that. And so you don't want to impose too much on it. I didn't tell the bass player what to play. I just started playing the chords, and then all those guys sort of jumped in behind it, and then all of a sudden you got a track. So when I put the track together after that initial improv that we did live, then I worked with Rupert Brown and others to create layers of drum tracks. So it's kind of you do one thing and then these are something else, and then all of a sudden that creates the atmosphere, and you're trying to really nail down the atmosphere of the song. And
Mm.
there are a couple of things like the current single, "The Dance." There was another rhythm track. There was another drum track, which just didn't wasn't any good. It was okay to record to, but just didn't have that special quality to it. So I went to see my friend Rupert Brown on the Isle of Wight. He lives, he works from Shell Abbey, and he still lives on the island. And he's kind of an absolute genius sonically. And we stripped the track apart, and we created this amazing drum sound. He created the drum sound. I actually played on his kit at the studio. So and it's only when you do it and you go, oh, that's what it needs to be. Sometimes you've got you've done it. You're recording a track in a certain way, and there's a nagging doubt that
Mm.
it feels right, and you keep changing, and you keep working on it until you get it right. So that's the methodology. But I don't sit down and say, right, this is the guitar part, this is the bass part. I come up with the essential DNA, and if I
Right.
bring a great guitarist in, I want him to do his thing. I want him to come up with his.
Right, so it is
You know.
it's a collaboration of musicians,
Oh,
really. For very
absolutely.
excellent,
Yeah, yeah.
good. Okay, fun enough. I mean, the actual first verse of "Beautiful Wounds, although I know it must have been written at least 2 or 3 years ago, because I remember seeing Diana and you perform it at the 606 Club, I believe. But
Yeah.
the actual first verse, and I'm just going to quickly read this out: the whole damn world's in a flat spin, gone down so fast, can't take it in. Seems like only yesterday when we had all the time to play. How could we have been so dumb? We knew this day would have to come. So keep your ships in line astern. These lessons we've got to learn. Now, to me, when I actually read that out, I was just thinking of COVID, to be honest with you, because it's
I
almost
know.
like a warning. The whole damn world's in flat in a spin, and we've got a, we've been so dumb. We knew this day would come. So I know it wasn't written that way, but it's
No.
amazing how it, after reading this after what we've all gone through in the last year, how that first verse seems that way.
That's what I was trying to get. That's what I was trying to convince the label to put the track out last year because it was. I like that idea of being relevant, or being prescient in the moment. Of course, it wasn't written. Obviously, it was written a while ago, but
Yes.
and it may have been kind of inspired by the crash really that we had. Because I think the first version of it was on. The lyrics were written quite a long time ago. But I think the problem is we have in the world is that we keep having these disastrous situations, and until I guess that's always been the case throughout history. There's been traumas and nightmares and wars and plagues and things.
Yeah.
We're right in the middle of something none of us could have anticipated.
No.
Just over 12 months ago. But yeah, it's quite prescient, that lyric.
And would it be a good assumption of the overall song? I've just put down, we all go through things that affect us, but we can all get through them. Would that be a good way of summarizing the whole song?
I think there's something else to it. Like that's a one way of summarizing. But one of the things that have always been struck with is like how people who face adversity in life often come up with they do something incredible with it. They write a song or they start a charity or something. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like you think of someone like Billie Holiday with her very very troubled childhood and dreadful the abuse she suffered, and she takes that pain or took that pain and turn it into this incredible voice that could reach into your heart, and she turned it into something wonderful. I mean, you would hope that you wish you could turn the clock back and for her not to have experienced those things,
Mm.
but what she did with it and what she could do as an artist was allow other people to live through her that kind of suffering without having to really go through it all the way. And I think
Yeah.
one of the great things about human beings is they can turn those kinds of negatives into positives by
Yeah.
making art or writing a song, a play, or painting a picture, whatever
Mm.
or maybe help other people, or be even just be more empathetic to other people when they're having a bad time. Those are the things that you could call a beautiful wound. When you've been through something bad, but you've grown as a result.
Yes.
And yeah, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Now the dance. Again, what the first verse of that kind of, and I'm going to relate this to say Earth, Wind and Fire, September, that you hear a song on the radio quite often, and then you get to what we used to call a disco now, and now modern day wording is a nightclub, and you suddenly hear the song and you end up dancing on the dance floor. Because, and again, would that be a good summary of sort of what you were sort of getting at with the dance and the verse and the lyrics to that?
I think I was thinking about like when you have you wonder sometimes looking back on your life, like relationships you've had, either friendships or partners, and you kind of, why didn't that work? Why didn't
Right.
that was so right at the time. We were so good together.
Aha.
We were such good friends. And or we were such good partners. We were such good dancers. What happened to that person? All of a sudden they're not there. And you look back, you think there's a mystery in that where you kind of
Yeah.
some things just don't work. Some things aren't meant for the course of your life. But it's just kind of looking back to relationships I may have had in the past and going, there was a moment there that I shared with someone, and you're going, well, why didn't that work, or why are they not in my life anymore? Where
Mm.
are they? Or how are they? What are they up to? It's that kind of thing. It's just sucking the idea that and how much you learn from one another in little encounters, like either in relationships or friendships. You this in this song, being taught to dance by your partner. You can learn many things from your partners along the way. Maybe, I guess one of the themes of the album, I suppose, is gratitude in a way. Like talking about acknowledging things and going, yeah, there were good things, even though there's kind of melancholy and things of that longing is there, but it's also gratitude that you had that experience. That there was a moment in time that I shared with someone like that.
Yes. Well, all forms your character, I suppose. Yeah, funny enough, I did on the last paragraph where you actually say, and I wonder why we're not now together. So I'm assuming it is actually about somebody in particular.
Well, I know it's an amalgam of a number of people, either friends, maybe lovers, people that I've known that like you go, blimey, that was really great at that moment, and then all of a sudden, because I mean, there was a time when I was moving so fast in my 20s, particularly that you didn't have time to, you. I remember like when I was touring in my 20s, I knew I was going to be in Amsterdam a certain number of times a year, or Florence or Paris or whatever. It was great, but I'd have these relationships that were based on, hey, I'll see you in September,
Right.
and,
Yeah.
and or people that I knew in Europe, like one of the guys that took us to Amsterdam, or was very close friends with the promoters in Holland. He ended up in Florence, so I would see him. We were in Florence a couple of times a year, or maybe 3 times a year. I'd see him. Hey, I'll see you in September, Hein. And of course, when you leave the band, when you stop living like that, when you stop living out a suitcase, all
Mm.
of a sudden, all these friends, all these great relationships there. You're not going to be in Florence in May. You're not going to be. That was the weird thing about touring ending. It wasn't necessarily that I was unhappy about that, not having to tour, but I'd had all those relationships built up all around Europe and America, all these people that I would see
Mm.
regularly, and all of a sudden I'm not going there regularly. So there's a lot of that.
Now I must admit, I know that Wally appears in your
Yeah,
in the album quite a couple of the tracks. Now,
yeah.
I've done a Q&A with Wally just via email, and I asked him what it was about you that he liked on the first time that he met you. And his
Okay.
his response is absolutely lovely, Phil. I will just read it out. I suppose one immediately knows when upon meeting someone, there is something about the vibes, the individual memories, the effects that never lies. It's there and it's obvious to see. Phil and I were on the same line from word go, even before we started rehearsing with pop music and M. And we had a common denominator in fusion jazz and jazz funk, which I said I thought was lovely. So in reverse, what was it like? What was it about Wally that appealed to you when you first met him?
Well, he was a very open guy, and he was a couple of years older, So I was 22 and he was 24, so he seemed a little bit more grown up than me. He's always been much more grown up than me, but he was just like this really talented musician, and I was in awe of the things he could do. I was always just kind of like, I've always been like a huge uh, like a kid really, with being around people that could do extraordinary things. So we met, and we had a lot of common ground musically. We all shared a lot of the same musical landscape, that we all loved that. And I remember there was a conversation I had with Wally about Sex Machine by James Brown. How that,
Okay.
but me and Mark and Boone would go to a local club on the Isle of Wight and sit there all night waiting for Sex Machine to come on, and then get up and then dance, and and then sit down again, because that was you have to, we might be able to persuade the DJ to play it one more time or something. But that was what it was like. But then Wally said that when Sex Machine came on when he moved to Dahomey when he was a bit old, I think he grew up in Paris and moved to Dahomey when he was 12. But when Sex Machine came on and the speakers in the town, the whole town would stop and go mad.
Right.
So you have a relationship with music around the world and common ground that it's only when you meet something like that you. And I think the connection Wally and I had was very, very strong, and I I don't think the guys took much persuading, but I did have to kind of be proactive in getting Wally involved. Like I had to borrow the money to fly him over for Love Making
Right.
Love. Yeah,
Right.
and because we didn't have a big budget, it was like a Elite Records, and Mike wasn't too sure about it because Mike was the keyboard player, and he go, what's happening here?"
Right.
And my brother wasn't sure about it because he thought we could do it all ourselves. But I knew that Wally had this wonderful spirit about him and this incredible creativity that could really be a great blend with us, you know. And once that happened on Love Meeting Love, and then we did the following year when we did the first Love 42 album, it just worked so well. I mean, his sonic landscapes, you know, his keyboard stuff. If you look at the track like Star Child, the riff is Wally Battery. That's a Wally Battery riff,
Mm.
and then all the synth stuff is Wally. You know, all those do 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 do, all that stuff. Dunk 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 dunk. All that's Wally. You know, and Mike was just, wow, this is amazing.
Mm.
Me and Mike would do stuff like on the in Star Child, the piano and glockenspiel solo. Me and Mike created that. We worked that out together, and then I played it on the glock. He played it on the piano, and I, you know, that kind of thing. So we were all involved in making these sounds. But Wally's sonic contributions were what set us apart really, and what allowed us to grow beyond the scene that we arrived
Mm.
on. You know what I mean?
Mm.
That's my thinking anyway.
I did interview Jerry Pike about a year and a half ago, God rest his soul, because unfortunately he's left us fairly only a few weeks ago. And he had, he showed me some paperwork of his homework that he had to do. And I must admit, most of it showed that he took a lot of Boone's solos out of Love Meeting Love. When that kind of happens to you, are you as a musician, is that upsetting, or do you understand that the powers that be think it's going to be better without it and you accept it?
I guess in that little moment, you know, we did that first. It was just one track, and we did it in one day, the whole thing. And
Oh wow.
yeah, one day, and we did the B side in one day. We played the B side, like we played the A side in its entirety, and then overdubs on it, and then the B side is in its entirety, which is an instrumental version. It wasn't a remix of the A side. It was like we played it again, then we did some
Oh,
overdubs and left, you know. So, you know, hand claps on the floor, percussion, Mike doing the piano over, you know, thing, and all done in a day.
mm,
So you don't really have much time to think about what's going on, and I wasn't that kind of aware that Boone had lost things. You know,
yeah.
I think Boone played sax on that track, or at least on
Okay.
the instrumental bit. So, which is a shame that he never did again. I don't know what happened there, because I think we should have. I think he played sax on it. I think it sounded really good.
Well, I must
So we
admit,
should have probably.
with the amount of demos I've come across since doing my sort of uploads on YouTube,
Yeah,
I bet you somebody somewhere's got the whole thing, you know, with
yeah.
everything in it. Because I bet the original, although it's quite a long song anyway, that came out, I bet the original was probably about 8 or 9 minutes long, I guess.
It probably was actually. We just. I think we just recorded it as a 12-inch version. You know, we
Mm,
didn't record it as a single. Then they would have edited it down for a single.
mm.
But it was, yeah, it was kind of, yeah. But later you have more control. You know, at that moment with Elite, at the very beginning, we had no control over anything. You know.
No. Now, going back to the album and just mentioning Boone there, I understand the Russian Submariner is the song that includes Boone. Now, first of all, are you going to release that as another single before the album comes out?
No, on the album. It's actually an instrumental.
Ah,
It started life as a song, and then I was working on this project, like a film music project, and we said, I've got the sequence. Why don't we utilize it? You know, and we created this track, and the sequence seemed to suggest, you know, Prokofiev or Russian composers. So we then went into a vibe. That became the vibe. Then I found this incredible story of this Russian sub commander called Vasily Arkhipov, who actually saved the world really, because he could have fired a missile on the Saturday night during the height of the Cuban Missile Crisis,
ah,
when his fleet, submarine fleet, were attacked by American ships, you know, depth charges. The protocol was to launch missiles, and he didn't.
ah,
And if it had launched missiles that night, you would have World War III essentially.
wow.
But Vasily Arkhipov decided not to, against protocol. He said, "I want to get to the surface and find out if we're really at war," and which is not what he was supposed to do. He was supposed to fire back, you know. But without him doing that, we would have had World War III.
Right.
So the song version, which will come out after the album and all the other tracks later in the year as a standalone track, will be about that. And Boone's on it. Boone's featured on the instrumental because there's very long guitar solo, which we put together, and so it was very moving to have that there.
Absolutely, and to be honest with you, when that comes out, I know a lot of Level 42 fans will that will be their year, that the event of the year. I think to hear that song, obviously with the two of you performing again.
I was very nervous about using it because um, we did have another track that Mike and I'd worked on with Mike, but the label was saying, that's such a good track, and Boone's playing on this track.
Yeah.
I don't know actually what it was. What happened was, oh well, I won't go into all the details,
No.
but like what I asked Boone's permission, and this is shortly before he left us, and then I asked his daughter's permission. I didn't want it to be exploitative in any way
Is
because
that Shaney?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and
met Shaney actually.
yeah, she's great, and obviously it was an incredibly difficult time for everybody. But like, the thing is, it is his last hurrah. We didn't imagine it would be, but like obviously that must be people must hear it.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we'll to try and push that. So in a way, I would like to do a single version of it because all the other guitar parts on it are my brother's,
Mm.
and they're beautiful. And like the more people can hear it, better.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other tracks, which obviously I haven't got the words to at the moment, but Truly Wise is what's that actually about?
Truly wise is meeting somebody like who just seems to have it all going on, and they're kind of like you're really attracted to them in every way, but they seem to some people just seem to have that kind of knowledge of life that they know what the hell's happening, and you're just running around like a chicken and confused, and so it's kind of just it's kind of a fun song. It's kind of a little cheeky song that Diana sings really well, but the idea that some people seem to have more depth and are more in touch with everything and what's going on and their
Mm.
humanity
Right.
than others,
Okay.
and often those people become leaders in your life. You kind of follow them around, like
Yeah, and Open Wide.
yeah. Open mind is a title I've got a lot of stick for, but I really like it because it's like just essentially what it is that like the idea that you could be shut down by life sometimes. You can be shut down by people in your life. Sometimes you have people in your life that can be negative or even abusive, they
Mm.
close you down. But
Right.
you can get beyond that, and you suddenly you can just sometimes it's very hard to change things in your life because you might be married, you might have children, you might have all this structure that it's very hard to change. But at a certain point, you can make certain things work, but at a certain point, you go, that's not working.
Mm.
No, and whatever the consequences are going to have to change it. And sometimes
Right.
the consequences are moving out, losing, having to
Mm.
start again. It's pretty scary stuff. But
Yeah.
when you get to that place, it can be exhilarating. I was forced into that position by having a divorce. I got divorced. There wasn't on the cards. I didn't plan for that, but it had
Mm.
to happen because we weren't getting on very well. But all of
Mm.
a sudden, you get through it, and then you realize
Mm.
there is life. There is a way of you can sort of survive these things. You can move forward
Mm.
with.
Mm.
So it's kind of hopefully a positive song. I've
Mm.
often been accused of being a little bit Mr. Alienation, so try not to be that all the time.
And was that Lois, by the way?
Yeah, well, let's not go there.
Okay.
But like
Okay.
it,
Sorry. Sorry.
yeah,
Okay. Okay.
it's just what people go through these things, and when you're in the middle of separation like that or difficult times, you
Yeah.
can't see. You do feel shut down. You feel like closed down. People phone you up and say, "Do you want to go out?" No, I don't want to. No, go away.
Mm.
But then all of a sudden you get to a place where life beckons, welcomes you back, and yeah,
Yes.
okay, I'm ready now.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
what. So open wide is that kind of idea. Like, let's
Mm.
go.
Fruit Love.
What's that?
Fruit Love. Oh, Faint Love. Beg your pardon.
Faint love. Yeah. That's a song. That's a Wally Bowdery sequence, and that was a track an idea that was knocking around when we tried to reconvene in the mid 2000s. Love 42. I just always love that sequence. So I reworked it and worked it into a song. I mean, the first melody da 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 is Wally's, and then the rest of it's me. But he's happy. I took his little keyboard part and recreated it on marimbas and had real fun with it. So Wally's on that track. I think he's on it. Yeah, but yeah, it's just the idea of being damned by faint love. That is kind of a little bit of a downer, a little bit of a love song, going up being an angry one, get lost. I mean, there's a line in there. I never meant to cause you so much pain, but you made the weather and blamed me for the rain. I think that kind of sums it up.
Right. Uh-huh. And
Yeah, it's not my fault.
all right. And thank you. Who are you saying thank you to?
Thank you. I'm saying thank you to all the people, the wonderful people that helped me get to the place that I got to. There's
Right.
a lot of, and all through life. I mean, there was a wonderful sequence of. I was so lucky, and I did a summer season when I was 19, and this musician who was the organist was a really good musician. Really, really good. He studied at Berkeley in California. Serious guy, and he sat me. He basically got me by the scruff of the neck, sat me down in front of a piano, and I was ready to go. But he said, "Let's go. You need to be a serious musician." 2 years, less than 2 years later, I did the audition for the Royal Academy. I got up to grade 5 in 18 months.
Mm.
Because he kicked my backside, and I was at the Royal Academy before I was 21. So it's kind of like that idea of gratitude. And I never went. I was moving so fast in my 20s, and I never went back to see Bob. And I would have done, but by the time I heard he'd left us, I think when we were doing Standing in the Light, I was only 26 and he'd gone.
Oh wow.
That I never had the opportunity to do that. And the same thing with the teacher at the Guild or Bob House. He died a little bit later, but a lot of that's been going on where I suddenly realized, you know what, I haven't I haven't gone and thanked people like that had
Right.
shown gratitude because I was very lucky. So I just wanted to write about that, like
Mm.
the idea that uh, it's not about because when you're 21 you think, hey, it's all about me or something. I don't know.
Right.
It's just all meant to be. It's only when you look back you realize how much help you got and how much you know
Mm.
how lucky you were to meet these people along the way. Even somebody when you're 17 that drops this amazing album on you, and it changes your life. When you hear, oh my God, even that kind of thing is something you need to celebrate. I think
Mm.
that's kind of what it's about.
And the last two tracks, female names, Nina and Annie. Now, my first success is this Who You Lost Your Virginity To?
It's actually inspired by a painting or a photograph
Is it?
by Julian Margaret Cameron. Yeah, I suppose it's going to be seen like Annie, My First Success, but it's like there's a picture on the wall of Dimbola Lodge in Freshwater, and it was of a young Annie Prinsep taken in 1861 by this pre-Raphaelite photographer called Julia Margaret Cameron, and it's the first successful picture she took. And I just love the title really. So basically, I stole the title and then put a song around it about two people who are divided, by I don't know, could be tribal circumstance or country or war or something, and they love each other despite that. So it's kind
Mm.
of the idea of actually a real genuine love is somebody that is not going to be separated by anything. You know,
Mm.
and that's kind of like at that point you have you're really a business then. So yeah.
Mm. And Nina?
Nina is a song about Nina Simone, and I asked one or two of my friends to write different lyrics in different languages. So there was in a Spanish language version. We almost got an Italian language version up, Dion. I didn't quite get it. And I had a friend do a German language version, but my lovely friend Alison Marie did a French lyric, and I wrote an English lyric for it actually. We sang the English lyric, but the French lyric, it's a French song. The melody is just like Jacques Brel type thing or something. And it's kind of that kind of French torch song kind of vibe.
Mm.
And the song is there will be a translation available. The song is about Nina Simone, about her struggle for civil rights and justice. Racial justice. So that's kind of my lyric was about Nina Simone, the presence of Nina Simone, the charisma of what it would have been like to be in the audience and
Mm.
being kind of seduced by this charisma. So Alex, but actually, there are two more tracks on the album. That you're reading the vinyl. This is the
Ah,
yeah.
I think
So
because I think yeah, Paul Waller. Because am I right in hearing that this CD will have those extra tracks?
yeah, the CD because of the vinyl's limitation of time,
Right.
there's 9 tracks on the vinyl, and even then it's like pushing up the 22 minutes aside kind of thing, where it's getting to the upper limits of what you can have.
Right.
And then but on the CD and the download of the album, there'll be these two extra tracks, which is one is called "The Fear of Fear," which is the part of the riff of that is actually a sequence I stole and used in a track called "Astral Vampires" years ago. So
Ah,
basically, the Fear of Fear was supposed to be Astral Vampires Part Two, but when I got down to writing the lyrics, I moved a little bit away from Astral Vampires. So I was going to have it right, the Fear of Fear, Astral Vampires Part Two, but I actually got to the point where actually it's nothing to do with Astral Vampires anymore. So,
okay.
but it's kind of the sequence in the verse is a little bit based on the chorus of Astral Vampires. So I actually plagiarized myself. So and it's my song. I can do. I can do what the hell I want. Um, but there's also one last track which I really love. It's called Body Blows, which is a very emotional ballad, and it's kind of again, it's that kind of positivity going around somebody's house. Somebody's been in their room too long. You got to get out. Come on. It's not. We're here. You're not alone. That I just want to send that message out to people that a lot of what people experience in life. Sometimes it's almost like you feel it's unbearable. Sometimes you're going through some really difficult thing,
Mm,
and you can't imagine any other human beings ever experienced that. Say if you suffer from panic attacks or
mm,
depression, or you've got an illness, and you feel so isolated. But the reality is, people. I mean, I used to have these panic attacks, when I was left the band, and I thought I was the only person in history that was suffering from it. I thought they
right.
were going mad.
Mm,
And then when you discover it's so commonplace, it really kind of so you kind of, oh, okay, well look, I can start to trust the process. Then I can recover from this. A lot of other people have been through this,
mm,
and that's what Body Blows is about. It's a little bit like about
okay.
the idea that come on, we you can't get through life without being affected by these things. You can't drive around all the difficult things that life's going to throw at you. But
Mm,
with some help from friends and a little bit of help from my friends, you can get through this stuff.
mm.
So that so hopefully some good messages on this album. I like to think so anyway.
Lovely. Look, if it's okay, if we sort of stop on this section and then I've come
Yeah.
back to you again with some questions that I've accumulated from some other fans. So I hope everybody that watches this, enjoys the conversation about, the inspiration for the whole album. And on behalf of everybody who watches this clip, thank you so much, Phil.
See you in the next clip.
Thank you. Whatever you put out, there's still an audience there, and I'll be front in the queue for a signed, whatever it is. I want it signed though.
All right, Jules. Yeah, you're
To my
number
collection.
one. Number one.
Lovely.
Number one on the runway, man.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Phil. Thank you.
Look after yourself. Stay safe.